So, good morning, or near lunch. We stand between you and food. I'm Tyler Doyle. I'm a staff product manager at Tableau. Some of you might know that already. It's always very awkward to introduce yourself after you've been on stage. So I work on now and have worked on a lot of things that this Zen master gets to harass me about, from server and publishing and workbook flows to APIs, from collaboration and commenting to data management and APIs again. So we go way back. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce one of our Zen masters, Craig Bloodsworth. He is recognized for his steadfast involvement with the Tableau community, with something like 62 vises on Tableau Public. I tried to pick a favorite this morning, but couldn't. He has been developing community releases for Tableau, including a Tableau Chrome plugin, web data connectors, which we were just chit-chatting about on the side, geopacks for enhanced mapping, and even an auto-updater script to keep servers right up to date. Craig, I think we need that script internally.
You do.
His work with the Information Lab, starting in 2011, has brought him to countless clients to help them understand and create exciting visualizations in Tableau. But I think perhaps the most important achievement that Craig has is he is the only Zen master with whom I have ignored financial advice from after a couple of pints of beer. And if I had listened to him, I'd be up 7%. So that's my fault. Please join me in welcoming Craig.
Good. Hi, everyone. So this session is very directly titled The Past, Present, and Future of Tableau Mapping. Before we get started sort of getting deep into the content, I want to start with an old English proverb. You don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. Now, I like this for two reasons. One, it's kind of mapping, right? It's kind of thinking about where you're going, and you've got to understand your place in the world before you get some direction of where to go. But also, it sort of applies to learning features and getting real in-depth and advanced with something in a piece of software. Mapping in Tableau has been around for quite a while now. It's a very rich and very developed feature. And there's a lot that's baked into just one chart type, right? And so it's very easy to miss. You pick up Tableau, you double-click on something, and it sends you a map. And you think, OK, great. That's a great N, fantastic. Is that all it does? And so we're going to go through in this session and understand where Tableau has been with mapping all the way back to the very first version when they introduced it. And we're going to go up to date to sort of discuss some of the things that I'm really excited about from this morning and some things I'm really looking forward to that's coming soon. Before we get started, though, I know everyone's sort of feeling that drain right before lunch. You're going to go down and eat your weight in meat and carbs and stuff from the conference food. So I thought I'd wake everyone up. So if you are able, please, everyone, stand up. If you're not able to stand, just raise your hand. And we're going to play a little game with the room. So, everyone ready? OK, there's one question that you're all going to answer. In which version was mapping integrated into Tableau? We're going to do it in reverse order. And you can sit down when you see the version come up that you think is when Tableau introduced mapping. We'll start with an easy one. 2018. Still standing? Good. Who thinks version 10? 10.1, 10.2? No? Version 9? It's going to get a little harder now. Version 8? 7? You all a couple, yeah, OK. Holding your nerve. Version 6? We're going to keep going. Version 5. Who thinks version 5? And who can really hold their nerve and go all the way? So, version 4. Okay, now everyone's still standing. I would love, well, actually, I'm not going to play poker with you later. You clearly can just hold it, and great. People who sat for version 4, you are correct. Well done. Everyone was looking around at you. You're still standing. Well done for managing. If you're still standing, you can sit now. Okay, good. Right. So yes, version 4 was when Tableau introduced mapping. This was on the 13th of August, 2008, which means this year mapping is 10 years old. So my name is Craig Bloodworth. I work at the Information Lab in the UK. I'm a member of the Tableau Zen Master Hall of Fame, which means I've been a Zen Master for over 5 years, and they decided that they didn't want to keep selecting me, so they put me into this group, which I'm very honored to be in. And I've been using Tableau since version 6, and I absolutely love maps in Tableau. So here's what we're going to go through in this session. There's no prize for guessing. We're going to start in the past. Why do Tableau maps work so well? What makes them so easy to use, and how do I think they're so effective when it comes to adding to your dashboards and your visualization? We'll pause and look at where we are right now. There is, like I say, a lot of stuff that's developed into the product, and actually lots of things that landed this year in the 2018 release. And we're going to go through a live build of one of my favorite visualizations, which has maps sort of right at the forefront. And you can see just how rich you can go with this one chart type. And then finally, what's the directions for maps and Tableau in the future? Where can I take this fantastic feature, and sort of what aspects do I sort of see them going towards? All sound good? Okay, so let's look at the past. So way back when, version 4, here are the release notes from back then. Tableau just dropped maps. I got a feeling they were pretty happy back in Seattle. And you want to know why? They didn't just mention it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. All in one release note, it was 7 times. It was 8 times, and that is pie charts on a map in the first release. And finally, 9 times. Their one release notes, they just went through all of the different ways that you can use a map. They were pretty excited about this one feature. So why? What did we get? Well, we're going to go back in time. Now, I just have to play around with this a little bit to mirror here. And welcome to Tableau in the past. So this is actually version 6. I wanted to go back really to the start, to the version 4. Does anyone guess why you can't install version 4 right now? It was on a CD. That's a good guess. I believe that applies to versions 1, 2, and 3. Version 4 is available for download. You can all download. It's about 21 megs in Tableau Desktop. I think it's like 1.5 gigs now. No, the only reason that you can't install and use, well, you can't install it, the only reason you can't use version 4 is that the licensing system is no longer switched on. So you can get the prompt to add a key, but it won't go anywhere, and it just doesn't work. So we have to go to version 6, so pretend that we're in version 4. And so we've connected to, of course, our famous Superstore sales data set. And right back when, this very first feature of adding a map, they added a lot into that. It wasn't just, hey, if you've got some latitude, longitude in your data set, you can drag it out and we'll try and draw something for you. Or you can reach out to a third-party package and implement it in. It was baked right in the product. And even the automatic geocoding was right there in front of us. If we see state has the geocoding symbol, and double-clicking on it brings out a beautiful map. Who remembers Null Island? Some old timers in here? Okay, cool. So Null Island was where Tableau put a dot when it didn't recognize where anything was. So there's 2 down here, and we can, of course, just exclude them. There we go. This is an offline map as well, by the way. Online maps don't work either. We could, just like any other chart type, put stuff on size, color by profit, resize the bubbles. We could bring in another really basic chart of looking at stuff by region, creating a dashboard. And we could still use actions. So we could still say users filter. There's no nice little button to do it, but it was in the menu. And you could still filter the map to zoom in, to show regions that you're interested in. And of course, I'm using offline maps, and sometimes they don't work. So this one feature that there we go, cool. So it was all just regular Tableau, right? Maps back then, and even mapping today, is still considered this specialist thing that someone in your team who's been there for 20 years would just take on, and you pass the data to them, and they draw something for you. Tableau did something amazing, just like they've done with all other sort of BI and analysis, of just making it one click and making it super easy for everyone to do to help see and understand their data. But how did it work so seamlessly? What's going on in the background? Well, there's two parts to it. First off, you actually have to draw the picture. And to make a map, all Tableau had to do was take a humble scatter plot. They put a picture behind it, the lovely UK where I'm from. They get rid of the axes. They change the projection just a little bit, and just adjust the marks. And that was it. Exactly the same VizQL rendering engine that goes into every single chart in Tableau, just with a picture in the background, and this geospatial sort of idea about it. So yeah, there was really nothing to that, but this is only one part. Drawing the picture is great, but if you have to go off to find latitudes and longitudes, and you have to know all this exists, well, then you are never going to use this feature. So you had to know, Tableau had to help you find where things were in the world. And it's not quite as simple as just knowing where a city is, or when one example of a city is. If we go to, let's say, let's see if I can get this on the other screen. There we go. Just give me a little sneak preview into what's coming. So if we just draw a map of, let's say, cities in the US. How many Columbuses do you think there are in the US? Or at least in Superstore. Who knows Superstore sales like the back of their hand? So if we use a highlighter and go for Columbus, there are 3 Columbuses in the US. Now, Tableau had to know where to put them, right? It wasn't a case of just plotting them in their average point. Oh, there are 3 Columbuses, but this is the average of them, and so we'll put a dot there. It had to be right. Well, in order to figure all that out, there is a bunch of magic that goes on in the background. Because it is actually a really complicated problem to solve. Columbus is easy when you consider that there are, what's that number? 1,840 San Jose's outside of the US. There's another, add another one if you're going to include one in California. So, to be able to do this, this was this took some thinking. Well, the solution for this is patent US 8306971B2, which I'm sure you all know, is owned by Tableau. It's attributed to, among others, Jock McKinley, who's one of the original founders and one of the original team, He's the VP of R&D at Tableau, and Chris Stolte, who was one of the 3 founders out of Stanford. And this patent, you can go and download it, describes tables at various levels, looking at countries, states, cities, a number of dimension tables, and then a single fact table with all the latitudes and longitudes that Tableau needed to draw the maps. And this patent is responsible for these files that you might find somewhere on your hard drive. These are what allow Tableau to say that there are 3 Columbuses in the UK, and it knows exactly which state to put them in. And remember, all of this was in version 4. We've got a whole bunch more stuff to go. So what came? Well, let's fast forward to version 7, and we welcome in filled maps. Now, to me, filled maps showed just how committed Tableau were to making, to doing things right, to making it easy, and to just making things beautiful. They already had the polygon mark type in the product. Even back in that version 6, you could, if you had a bunch of latitudes and longitudes and you knew how to connect the dots, you could draw a filled map. And some of us made some names for ourselves by doing that and releasing data for it. And that could have been it. Even today, if you wanted a filled map in Tableau, that's what you had to do. And providers pop up around the community, providing third-party data that you can pay for and license separately and all that complexity and that horribleness. But they didn't do that. Tableau figured out how to more closely integrate that native geocoding database with their VizQL rendering engine so that they weren't just connecting the dots, they were actually having the marks shaped like the states and putting a single mark on the map to give you that filled map. So this gives us not only a great way to fill a map and to make something that's really clickable and really interactive, but it gives us a little side effect because every time Tableau releases a new feature, there's always this little side effect of fun. What's someone going to do with it? How are they going to maybe break it, or where they're going to take it? So that turned into just being able to play around with those shapes. So if we, let's say, want to analyze profit and sales by state, well, we could just leave dots, but we could also make the scatter plot filled with the shapes of the states. Why not? It's kind of fun. Anyone done that before and actually found a good use for it? Put it up to someone? I haven't either, but I like to. Some people haven't seen that they don't even think that you can do this. But you can actually create some things that look nice and just add that added value. Take the humble bar chart. We're talking about a state. Yes, we could put a label on there, but we could also reuse those marks and stick them in and show the actual state. And these aren't just sort of pictures hovering over. These are the marks of the states from that database. So whenever Tableau do something and they do it right, they not only sort of enable you to do the thing that they set out to do, but they can also drive creativity within the product and allow people to do more and more stuff, even outside of what is drawing a map. Now, the next big change that came along was in version 8.2. And this sort of set Tableau on a route to some of the stuff that you saw today. And that they looked at their maps and they said, you know what? They could be more beautiful. So they went to a design company, Stamen, and they had them not only create some lovely styles for their maps, to rework them, to get them looking absolutely perfect for visualization. But they also had them help build a network of servers around the world to serve these maps to you. You see, up until then, lots of people maybe didn't realize, but the background maps were provided by a third-party mapping service. And while that third-party mapping service was okay in the US, it looked pretty good. It gave a good example for those of us who lived outside of the US. When we found that data point that was really interesting and we wanted to zoom on it, this would happen. Oops. Yeah, they didn't quite serve the rest of us the way they served you guys. So it brought this ability for Tableau to completely control the mapping service, the mapping space. It became much more usable outside of the US. And it gave Tableau complete control of the data that they used and that they would use to generate their maps, with a secondary sort of spin-off that then they could take that data and make their geocoding better. And it all just became this development cycle that just made mapping more and more useful and I think, much more beautiful. So version 9. Version 9 brought with it a whole host of data updates, both in the US and across the globe. Users were sort of encouraged to explore maps more and to sort of get into points of interest with the geographic search. There was that, I still can remember the cheer ringing in the back of my head from devs on stage of the lasso select and being able to just draw the shape that you wanted to get to select the marks on the viz. Maybe even more sort of interesting in the way that Tableau's gone and released today with maps is their introduction with Mapbox and being able to use a custom map that absolutely fits the look and feel that you want. And if anyone hasn't had a look at Mapbox and tried, I would really encourage you to go and look. It's not something that really requires lots of coding and development. It's literally dragging things and changing colors, and you can create something that looks exactly how you want it to and use it directly in Tableau. Version 10, and the updates to mapping just keep going with each release. So we have a whole bunch of shout-outs to those mapping updates. But 10 was the start of something very important. 10 was the introduction of the spatial file connector, and also the native handling of lines within those spatial file types. So now Tableau was at the ball game for spatial. Yes, making a scatter plot look like a map is awesome, but it relies on this table of latitude and longitude, this background data set, which is fantastic for getting us started. But if you're going to go into anything that's sort of more advanced with mapping and spatial, you need these custom geographies, you need these spatial files to make use of. And I think once this came in, Tableau started to really consider itself, or could consider itself, a GIS tool. All right? Now, you may not have heard of GIS. It is, like I say, one of those more advanced things that someone in the corner of the office has been doing for years. But Tableau is making it just more accessible for everyone to be able to do. And then we finally come to 2018 and the present. So where are we today? Well, to review that, I really want to get hands-on. I don't like being in slides. This is slide 42 so far, and that's way too many for a Tableau presentation. So we're going to go to Tableau Desktop, and we're going to look at this. My favorite example, my favorite sort of mapping application that was put out by The Guardian in the UK, which shows where in the UK it's affordable to buy a house. For as much land as you guys have in the US, maybe outside of the inner cities, it's maybe not quite as, won't resonate quite as much, but in the UK we are, oh, excuse me. Nope, we're going to go way too far in the future now. It is a problem that we have in the UK, that people's earnings just aren't keeping up with the cost of land and the cost of houses. So let's take a look, and we're going to take this, and I'll show you the real version. Okay, so if you wanted to buy a house in 2014 and you were on the minimum wage, pretty much all of the country was completely unaffordable. Picture doesn't get much better when you go national average either. What I liked about this is first of all, that it's answering a question. It's a very emotive thing. And also, it puts a map right in the front and center, right? This isn't a dashboard where we're clicking around and a map pops up in the bottom right-hand corner, or the map is the way to get people to interact in the top left, but the stuff that you want is all in the rest of the dashboard. The dashboard is the map, and the map is the dashboard. We can change the year, and we can see sort of a travel through time. Back in '95, things were much cozy. Obviously, we probably want to reduce that value a little bit, but the picture changes pretty quickly in the UK, and stuff becomes very unaffordable. I also discovered this right as Viz and Tooltips was starting to land, and I got really excited. Right, I have Viz and Tooltips. I have spatial file connector. I can build this Viz. Now, honestly, I've been building this Viz ever since Viz and Tooltips was in beta, and I've kind of got slowly further and further to creating the polished, finished thing that we have here. There's a few features that keep coming out that allow me to do it more and more. And what we're going to try and do is go through, in not too much time, how we can actually build this and go through some of the new features that come with 2018 as well. So let's have a look in Tableau and a data set I have here. So this data set is all of what we call outcodes in the UK. So a bit like a zip code, we have a postcode, and the postcode is usually structured as letters and numbers, a space, and then some more letters and numbers. And we describe different levels of this postcode. The level we're operating at today is called the outcode, which is everything before the space. So it's like that first part of the postcode. And we have them all here. We can build a rudimentary viz of size and average of house sales in specific years. Okay. But let's make this look more beautiful and filled and not just a bunch of dots. So we'll go back into the data source. I'm going to reach out to another data set, because in this one I only have the points, and I really want those filled shapes. So in 2018, we had the ability not just to work with spatial files, but we have a new connection in SQL Server. So you can use your Microsoft SQL Server to store geospatial data. You can store lines, you can store points, you can store polygons. This is great because it means you can distribute all of your maybe even custom sales territories, or even just spatial data that's kind of useful to the rest of your organization. You can save it into your SQL Server, and everyone can make use of it. Everyone who has Tableau can really make use of it. So let's pray to the Wi-Fi gods and connect to my SQL Server back in the UK. There we go. I have the polygons sitting here. We'll drag it out, and we're just going to do a really simple join on that outcode. Okay, nothing special has to happen here in the join. It's just coming from matching an outcode, which is a text field in one side, to a text field in the other side. But notice that we have, coming from the SQL Server, this polygon data type. So we'll go back to our map. We'll get rid of the points that we had before, and we'll add in the polygons. Now, this is the point where we probably want to start telling some jokes while we take an extract. There we go. And instead of sizing, obviously, by that median, we can just stick it on color, and we get an idea of the distribution of these median house sales. But this doesn't look quite as good. So the thing that stood out for the Guardian one was that they had this banding, right? Everything was a certain color, and they grouped things together so that it all looked nice. Well, I'm just going to go grab a calculated field. Save me typing it out. It's really simple. Just basically says that, if the median house price based on a salary value is 2 times salary, 3 times salary, 4 times salary, it's going to color them in different ways. Oops. Okay, so let's take that price banding calc, paste it in, and we'll put it on color. Great, part of the way there. Colors aren't quite as nice. Let's edit them. And again, just to save a little time, I have a custom color palette, which is just going to add those exact colors in there to make them all look nice and pretty. Cleaned up a little bit to get rid of the border. And then, you remember back to, was it version 10 with that Mapbox integration? Well, turns out that Guardian map is actually using Mapbox in the background. And if you kind of know how, you can go in and find the code that they use to get it, and you can borrow it, and you can put it into your Tableau viz, so then instantly it all looks exactly like it's theirs. Kind of cool. All right, so we have our, the first part of our dashboard, the map, and the map is the key thing, so let's get it on there. Let's get it into automatic sizing and start to clean things up a little bit. I'm going to hide the title. One of the features that I love now is being able to get rid of the padding. So I can just get rid of all those little white spaces and just make the map fill completely. So we can do that. OK. Now, I want to create the bits that go on the side. So we have that, but I want that little sort of menu down the right-hand side there that tells me, allows me to select, enter salary, all that kind of thing. So first off, let's go back to here, and I hate typing, so I'm going to just steal like an artist. Copy the text from there. We're going to float over a container. And we're going to drop in some text into that. Resize just a touch. There we go. OK. Another feature I really love now in terms of formatting is just being able to add in that transparency. Right? It all got a big sort of whoop this morning. So let's put in just a little bit of white into there and just pull it down just a touch. There we go. So it's starting to look pretty good. We want to drop in that salary parameter so that people can enter in salaries and play with this data set. OK, so let's go grab that. There we go. All right. Now, one of the things I really like, and that's sort of a motive part of this viz, is this. It's the sort of really standout text of what percentage is affordable and what isn't affordable. And also this down the right-hand side, this really deep red map that shows, it sort of it disappears and then it appears to show, what's just out of the reach of someone who's on this kind of salary. So we can go off and build that. That one's, pretty easy to do. We'll just do a new sheet. We'll take, again, I have just a really quick calculation to focus on the affordability. So is price less than salary, in this case, times 4. So this measure of affordability is it 4 times your salary, right? If it's over 4 times your salary, then it's classed as unaffordable. All right, so we can calculate the percentage based on a specific, specific postcode. That's going to be big. Okay, and we can calculate sort of how many percentage of houses that are affordable or sales that were affordable based on that year. So let's grab our affordable, drag it out. We'll go for text, and let's put that on a label. Okay, and I can change that to a quick table calc to give me a percent of total for stuff that is unaffordable, which is that false value there. I'm just going to set that to be against affordable or not. Cool. Right, I want to keep that 87%. I want to get rid of the true. I don't need that data. I just need that 87%. We're going to do that with a quick hide. So I keep the full calculated value, but I'm getting rid of this bit that I don't need without filtering it out. And we can go in and add some text around this to say, right, is something affordable or not? So 87% of houses are unaffordable. You know what I really felt like? I've got I felt quite, well, envious of the guy who had to do the NLP demo on stage, was typing questions live without a single typo as far as I could see. That was pretty cool. Sorry? I think, yeah, there was one there that kind of clicks. It started the spinner going, right? But that was insane. I don't know how anyone does that. Okay, so, you know, and I'm a bit of a stickler for this. I like to sort of make sure that things are just looking right. And we can go in and we can do a bunch of formatting to make this look absolutely perfect, but I want to be careful of time. So again, we can drag that one out and get rid of the title. And of course, because, you know, we can now do it, we want to get rid of the background because now it looks beautiful. All right. Now this, over here, this tooltip, there's one bit that I want to add into here. So if we look at back at the original, we'll see that it not only gives you the outcode, but it also gives you the name. So you've got that sort of reference. You're not trying to think in your head in outcodes. You actually have a name for the place. Now my data set doesn't have a name. If we look back in the data source, we have this outcode. In fact, we have it twice. We have the polygon, but we don't have that name in there. Now, the only sort of good data set I have for this, well, it doesn't have the outcodes in either. So I have a problem. I know there's a data set that exists that gives me this information. I know it exists because I built the service where it's hosted on. It's called Tableau mapping.bi. If you've seen it, if you've been to it, fantastic. If you haven't, go check it out as well. It has a web data connector built into it. So if you find yourself and you need some mapping data and it's just not there, it's not accessible, you don't know where to find it, Tableau mapping.bi you'll discover it and find it and hopefully get you on your way. So I'm going to go to something called a local authority district in the UK. I'm going to drag that one out. And yeah, we're going to see that it doesn't really have anything that can connect on. So the local authority district, I know I want to connect on this right-hand side. Oh, here we go. But I just don't have anything that matches. There is nothing in here. You know, the name, the code, no, they don't match the outcode. Well, again, 2018 released this new intersects feature. So I can just say, well, wait a minute, I know where these outcodes are. I know the point at which they exist in the world. I know where this region is in the world. And I can just align the two and say, right, if that point exists in that region, join the data together. So instead of using equals, we'll select the geometries on both sides and change it to intersects. All right. Go back to our map. This is going to start extracting like crazy, and we'll see just how many people are tweeting and playing with their phones. Yes, so intersects works with a spatial centroid. So you need that centroid data type in there, and then you have the polygon that you can use to do the intersect with. Yeah, so it does require those two different spatial data types. So that web data connector has gone off. It's gone grabbed all of these locations. It's now returning the data back into Tableau, which is now being loaded into my data set, and using a cross-database join, right, which is something I now take for granted. This is working originally from a hyper-extract, and then a SQL server back in the UK with some geospatial data in it. And now it's working with a web data connector, which is pulling in polygon data types from the local authority districts in the UK. So I have within my data set now, I have these local authority district names. Again, I can drag out, and we could play with a tooltip to see that we now have not only the outcode, but also the name that came from this other data set. So Tableau's doing, this is really amazing stuff. This is basically allowing us to just manipulate all parts of some geospatial data to get exactly what we need and exactly what we want to draw. It's allowing us to enhance our data, to add in any extra information that's missing so that it's relevant to people and that they understand what's going on. Now, just to be sort of careful of time, and like Tyler says, we're sort of between you and lunch, we're going to go to the polished version. So this is when you take a couple of hours and you really start to get into those formatting bits and really dig into it. So this is where I'm at with this viz. Like I say, when I first started to try and make this, it was I was 80% the way there. This is now, I'm going to say like 95% done. And it is possible to build it within just sort of an hour or so. Within the Vision tooltip, we have that sort of distribution of, within one outcode, what the pricing is, how many houses sell for those different levels. We can go in and change the salary, but even better, I get to use an extension within Tableau, which allows me to create buttons to drive that parameter. Everyone see the parameter actions that came in today? Right? That's this in action right now. The feature was originally a dashboard extension and has now been built directly into the product. I sort of more nicely typed out that percentage of and added the map in the side, which will change and shrink it based on how unaffordable or affordable things are. A quick sort of line chart that has that unaffordable percentage over time, which we can select to filter the view. And also, something I love is set actions have allowed me to add this little indicator in here. So there are two things going on with this click. One is a filter action, which is going off and filtering the viz to show the median house price for that year. The second is a set action, which is basically just recoloring a bunch of hidden bars along here and adding a label. So then when I click off, I know which year I'm in. And finally, the feature that's in beta right now and will release with 2018.3 is the new heat map mark type, which for me as a sort of Tableau geek, I'm so excited whenever the new marks types come in. It's like Christmas. But so we can actually make this viz better now. We can take what the Guardian did and we can start to say, well, actually, you know what? Great. it's a horrible story. The UK is terribly unaffordable. But actually, tell me where is affordable? Where can I buy a house? And is that the same in the current year as it was way back when? So if I'm shopping around in County Durham, I might know that I kind of probably want to look around this Crook village to find something that's affordable for me. So with one app, we can start to help people figure out where they want to buy, where they want to live around the country. And most of this was all made possible by features that came in this year and also in version 10. So that's where we are today. We can build really interactive, beautiful geospatial visualizations like this. And you know, I want to sort of maybe write to the Guardian and say, like, how many hours did it go into building this? And you know, is the coder still around? And what did they have to learn to do it? And maybe turn up to their office and show them it being built in an hour. That'd be fun. So anyway, the future. What's coming with Tableau mapping, and where do I sort of see this going? Well, in order to make any predictions about Tableau and what they're going to do, we have to look at their three sort of key focuses, their key areas for development. And for whichever feature, this is always sort of the cornerstone of what they do. Data sources, ease of use, and sophistication. We look at Tableau's history, there's always been that big push to connect to data no matter where it is, whether it's in your SQL Server, your Oracle, your Snowflake, your Exasol, your shapefile. Tableau in 2018.3 are releasing Esri geodatabases, Topo JSON files, and doing multi-layered KML files. Okay, from lots of people, that's just okay. Sounds like a bunch of data types, a bunch of file types, and it is. But actually, this is again just you've downloaded some data that's kind of interesting to you from someone. It has geospatial content. You want to be able to use that in Tableau. That is where they're getting you towards. Just wherever that geospatial data is, it should be useful and accessible in Tableau without any third-party conversion or tools, more specialist tools needed. Still in Tableau sites, I'm sure, are something like PostGIS, which is an add-on for Postgres. So if anyone has Postgres databases, you too can do geospatial data using the PostGIS add-on. And also, if there are any Google users, I know BigQuery just released the BigQuery JS. It went in beta, I think, earlier this year. I'm sure Tableau is going to be looking to add into that too. In terms of ease of use, you know, this is what we do really take for granted with Tableau. You know, you connect to your data, you drag and drop, and away you go. You know, back with version 4, this meant just the magic of being able to double-click on a city or an estate and have a map appear. But what does it mean today for sort of more specialist, more complex GIS functions? Well, you know, I'd hope to see that actually nothing's going to change with Tableau. That they'll bring the world of GIS into the Tableau platform and their products. You know, we don't want to see suddenly wizards pop up or having to write scripts in order to convert that GIS before it comes in. It should just be like any other data set, and stuff will just be done like with a drop-down or with a double click. But let's not confuse something being simple and easy to use with being simplistic. It should still be sophisticated. Okay, there are loads more calculations that can be done that help us just find those answers that we need, whether it's calculating distance, doing logical functions around things like bounding boxes and joining and enriching data. There are more functions that Tableau can tackle, things like within and equals and cover that some may be aware of in more GIS space. And everything should be really implemented in the same way that intersects join is implemented. Something that's just a drop-down that appears that we can use, and we don't have to think too much about it. And yeah, just this, I'm really excited to see this world of GIS, this really complex thing that has always existed somewhere, just come into the fold, because in the end, GIS data is just data. It's data that we can use, and it helps us find insights within our regular corporate data sets. And just think sort of how natural language then can also be applied to this. And is being applied to it today. If you ask a geographic question, you will get a map back. But it's going to be really interesting to see where Tableau goes with that too. So I just want to finish by sort of going back to where we started with this proverb. You don't know, going to know you've been. Or to kind of put it another way, the way I like to think about it, you want to know where you go? Well, first figure out where you are, right? How much of Tableau mapping have you used? How much have you just sort of thought, well, okay, it's drawn a map, but I'm sure it doesn't do anything else? And do you need to go back through and really get deep into this feature to figure out what's possible and where you can take it? There are so much you can do with maps. There's a huge list of possibilities, and really to just understand this feature, you've got to go deep and you've got to just try stuff. The more these things they add, the more possibilities come up, and really it's you who can drive your own art of the possible. You don't have to look to other people to be doing it and come out with examples for you. We do have time for a few questions. Before I do, I just want to ask everyone to get their phones out right now. Please do fill out the survey. I really love doing these sessions each year, and if you could, I'd love to just get some feedback in there. And I really appreciate you taking the next 10 seconds to do that. So thank you so much for coming and listening. Lunch is served out there. I'm sure you really want to get to it. If you're not too hungry, you grabbed a snack on the way in. I'd love to take any questions that you have. But thank you for coming and listening. Yep. Well.
So you're kind of seeing that more GIS functionality will come in Tableau. How are you seeing the fact that we need to join data? That has, for me at least, been kind of one of the struggles, that if you have multiple data sets you want to see it as different layers, you're kind of ending up with some hassling and joining and things like that.
Okay, so you're saying you want to do lots of layering within a map or something, and you're having to create this big giant data set to do it?
Yeah, I guess my question is, do you think that that type of functionality will come in Tableau, where you're more working with layers that you activate, and similar how it is in the GIS tools?
Yeah, so so layering is a big thing. Lots of GIS tools. It's just it's always been there. Tableau they do have the dual axis that you can use now today, a dual axis map. So you can do some layering in there, but obviously it's only 2 layers. There was a part of Keynote 2 or 3 years ago where they demoed what they were thinking about in terms of adding layering into Tableau. As far as I'm aware, that's kind of been parked a little bit. I don't think it's sort of really gone much further. I do think that will come to the product eventually. But usually when things in Tableau that they demo then get parked, it's because there is a broader sense that they can do it better and they can do it easier. Yes, it doesn't get us it right now, but I'm happy to sit back and let them see what they can do.
Thanks.
Okay. There's one in the middle.
What do you think about options like tile maps, for example? And we have seen a good example that you guys have about the London crime rate, I believe. So if we are replicating that, issues that we would have at the state level or the county level locally it's hard to do that without connecting to, let's say, Alteryx or tools like that. Do you think that's something that will be a lot more part of Tableau going forward?
Yes, I mean, I think, like I say, this is a very active development area for Tableau. We just look at sort of all the number of feature releases that get in that are specifically geospatial. And knowing the sort of the Tableau development team, they really do love it when you can say, hey, there's this area of working with data that is really difficult, and why don't you try and tackle that? Why don't you bring the Tableau, ease of use and everything to that? So yeah, I think that there are lots of things that are on the horizon with maps and geospatial and Tableau. And yes, maybe one day it will just be a case of we don't have to reach out to any external tools at all. But really sort of with a sense that, not that, great, you can just use one tool for everything, but more that you can just stay in that flow of analysis to, when you need to, you drag in that new data set and it just works.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, mapping was one of the reasons why I got into Tableau.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's exciting. Yeah, at work we're still in 10.3, so we have some upgrading to do. But my question is map backgrounds, background images. I think you mentioned during your talk that we can borrow some GIS images. I've been using Mapbox for that. What options are, moving forward, what options do you see are going to become available in terms of integrated map backgrounds for a more enriched view of the mapping?
Okay, so there's historically this has been a question of, right, can you find other services that provide this really rich these really rich maps? And in the UK we have like the Ordnance Survey, who every public body has to use Ordnance Survey maps because they are the official building footprint, roads, all of anything on the public highway, everything is referenced by these Ordnance Survey maps. And what I've seen is a lot of those systems, they've been provided by sort of old WMS servers or just natively to one product. And what I've seen, especially in the case of Ordnance Survey, is the past couple of years they've gone, oh, so there are other products out there. How are they integrating maps into them? And tiles are a way that they do that. So there's an API you can call to pull out tile images and get them in. So there's that side. I've seen lots of other services that have this more rich data, making it easier to consume things in Tableau. If you want to know how to consume tile APIs in Tableau, there are lots of blog posts. I've written a couple about rolling your own TMS file in order to get those in there. But then there's the other side as well of actually the power that Mapbox platform is becoming in the map space. Tableau and Mapbox are becoming much more closely aligned. And I've even seen data sets now where they will provide you with all of their raw data. So previously they would provide you with a mapping service to access their maps. Now they just provide you with the raw data that they have, with the view that you'll probably want to upload that into Mapbox. Mapbox can store it, process it, and then style it exactly how you want. If that happens, then the integration with Tableau is beautiful and it's native and it's right now. For any other sort of those services, push them or maybe just see if they're moving more across to sort of an API, open API access. Does that answer your question? Sure. No? Okay.
Any plans to add functionality around drive times, more than just a straight linear distance between points, stops? We did some realignment from a territory mapping, and it would have been nice to have drive times, to calculate.
So personally, I've not heard drive time specifically mentioned, but I have heard specifically mentioned the geocoding in general, from that first, which basically is the same as it is today, that first data set, that fiber database. That is definitely getting some development time. And yeah, it's very sort of high level in where they will take it, but I think it probably is on the horizon. I haven't heard anything concrete though. Okay. But again, calling out Mapbox, there are APIs, you can reach out to them, and I have a web data connector which you can put in points and you can get out drive time information from them. Okay, so just for the recording, the question is, this demo is all in the 2018.3 beta. There is no other magic there. This was just the 2018.3 beta. Yes, I will. I'm very happy to publish the work so far, that map and the stuff there. You mind if I wait until Tableau Public gets to 2018.3, and it'll go in there? Okay, cool. I don't think it'll be too much longer. Tableau Online is on .3, so Public should be soon. If it's not already, Tyler's, maybe? No, okay. All good? Fantastic. Thank you so much. Enjoy lunch.